right, this is Steve Shoney. I'm the city manager for the city of Upper Arlington. That, as always, was great friend of the show, Colin Gow, with his song Podcast, our officially licensed song.
Officially licensed song. Well, you picked a good guy to do one.
We did. I am here with my sidekick and co-host, Darren Shulman.
I am digging this. And just so you don't know if this is your first episode, that's because I am the city attorney. It's a very legal theme.
And that is, what is that the theme song from?
People's Court.
The People's
also
Court.
Also known as Mayor's Court.
Since you run Mayor's Court. And if you hear that voice in the background, that sounds a little bit familiar. If you, in the morning, for drive time, listen to Sunny 95. We are here with Dino Tripodis.
Hello.
Dino, I feel really kind of intimidated because this is like a legitimate radio. We're fake radio, and you're like legit radio.
Well, let me just share intimidation. Before I got here, I went online to make sure I didn't have any outstanding tickets or warrants because I didn't want to make sure this was some sort of sting operation.
Like when they tell you won a prize because you owe child support or something.
I understand I'm in the raffle for a boat. Where do I go for that?
Well,
I think you're clear.
If I seem like I'm leaning in a little bit more and trying to drop my voice even lower than normal, it's because I'm like on with a professional voice talent, so I feel like I've got to.
No, you got a great voice. My voice is higher than.
Well,
my co-host Stacy has a lower voice than I do, and she knows that. We joke about it all the time. So you're good.
That's right, baby.
I'm not even gonna try. Steve does have that like lower. I'm trying to impress you voice going.
Yes, I am. So welcome. As we were talking, as we were waiting for my sidekick to arrive, we do a little thing here to kick everything off called Start Bench Cut.
Start bench cut.
I got a
Start
good one.
bench cut.
This is a deep cut.
I told him what I explained it all to him. So roll right into it.
All right. So your background is very interesting. You're much more than an awesome radio personality, and you were a private investigator. Did I read that correct?
Yeah, in my younger years, yes.
So I was literally never met a PI before.
Back in my late 20s into my early 30s, and continued to do it while I was starting stand-up. When I moved out to L.A., in order to make some extra money, I reluctantly took some cases out there as well, because the people that I worked for had ties out there. So it was interesting, yeah.
So this Start Bench Cut is famous investigators.
Oh man, this is going to be hard.
And then you also got to tell me which one you like most identify with. So that's like the bonus question.
I love it. I love it.
Start Bench Cut. Sherlock Holmes.
Start.
Well, you don't. Fair. He's like, he doesn't even. Monk. You know Monk.
Oh yes, I love Monk.
I see you went too early.
The whole idea is to make this hard.
All right.
There's a third one.
I got excited.
I know Sherlock Holmes. I went with this tried and true, and then the third one, Magnum PI.
Okay. Yeah. Start Sherlock Holmes.
I'm glad I didn't make you change your answer.
Yeah, I love Sherlock Holmes. I'm a student of Sherlock Holmes. When you've eliminated the impossible, whatever's left, no matter how improbable, must be the truth, has been a device that I've used my entire life, whether it's trying to find my keys or trying to figure something out. And then in reserve, what is it, right?
Bench.
Bench.
On the bench.
Monk. I mean, I love that show. Tony Shalhoub, I love tremendously. And Magnum PI, I would cut.
You straight up cut the stash?
Cut the stash. I mean, I enjoyed Magnum PI, but I wasn't as devout. It was fun. It's a fun show. I love watching it now, but I didn't really watch it when it was on. But
Monk, he's the only one with PI in his name, too. So like he kind of was
true.
asking you to pick him.
True,
like, look, I'm just going to name myself PI.
Because Sherlock was just a detective extraordinaire, and Monk was a former police officer who was a consultant.
Yes.
Yeah.
Does he count, by the way? I figured that was
he
absolutely
counts.
Okay.
He absolutely counts.
So,
yeah.
Okay, there's a couple different places to go with this. But first, I want to ask. Actually, I'll stay with the. So it was, which Sherlock Holmes interpretation is your favorite?
That's a good question,
That's
Steve.
a great question.
I don't usually compliment you, but that was a good one.
Thank you.
It's a great question. I'd have to go because they did such an amazing job together, Benedict Cumberbatch and Martin Freeman. That most recent incarnation of Holmes was just amazing. So well written and so amazingly performed. But I still get a kick out of watching the old, Basil Rathbone, Sherlock Holmes, and there's been some great.
What are your thoughts on Robert Downey?
I enjoyed the Robert Downey, but I like Guy Ritchie movies too. So
Yeah, they're very Guy Ritchie.
Yeah. And
Little
I
too
thought,
action hero.
Yeah, and I thought Robert Downey can do no wrong in my book. Kiss Kiss,
Bang Bang.
Bang Bang.
That's a deep cut right there.
Is one of my favorite movies, Robert Downey Jr. movies. So yeah, no harm, no fouls there.
So I heard you were in a movie at some point.
Been in movies.
Movies?
I've made them. I've been in them. I just. It's funny you should say that. I just got back from Meadville, Pennsylvania, where I shot I was cast in a horror film that is called Pig Hill.
I mean, Meadville, Pennsylvania is the Hollywood of the East.
It is not. It is not the Hollywood of the East. It's not even the Burbank of the East. It was a screen actor, a SAG low budget horror film, and I played Giovanni Vendetti, who is the king of Pig Hill. So I was the Pig King for 3 days.
I mean, I don't want to spoil it. You probably had to die then, right?
Nope, I live. And that's what the writer said. Because, dude, you live. Sequel, baby. And I'm like, let's get through this one. Let's get through this one first.
How do you get cast and stuff like that? Are you
I
just
have
out there with your mugshots? Or
No,
whatever?
yeah,
Not mugshots.
Mugshot.
What's it called?
I know.
Face shot?
It's part of the business. I get it.
Sorry.
I get it. I have an agent in Pittsburgh, Cleveland, Doherty Agency, and I am signed with them, and they put out the casting call, and I had an audition, and a couple weeks later, they said you're pinned for the role of Giovanni, which pinned means that you've got the part unless we find somebody with a better and bigger name to take the role, which they didn't. So
unless Robert Downey changes his mind and wants to roll down here, take it.
I don't think Robert Downey Jr. was going to Meadville, Pennsylvania.
You heard what? They're filming in Meadville, dude. I'm there.
To play the pig king. But yeah, it was fun. It was a blast. I got to play somebody that's a complete 180 from me. Very big, a lot of bravado and nasty and vile. Got to throw in a little bit of an accent, and it was fun. It was good.
I'm really into movies and stuff, so I did look up at your bio, and I saw your short film where you and your colleague were brainstorming back and forth the ideas.
Spitballing.
Yeah, that was good.
That was out of boredom. We were so bored during the pandemic. Actually, we shot 2 films during the pandemic. One was Spitballing with my friend Ralph Scott in that one. Ralphie's great. And there's another one, if you go to DinoTripodis.com, you can see Supper, which I shot with John Osbeck. John and I wrote that one together, and we did that one. And that one actually picked up a couple of awards in some of the festivals down the line. But that was another pandemic shoot where we were kind of losing our minds.
Do something creative.
And then during the pandemic, we wrote, the 3 of us, Ralph, John, and myself, have written a film called Down to the Felt, which is scheduled to start shooting in October. We're currently in pre-production. We're putting all the financing together, and this will be the largest project we've ever done. This is like a $1.5 million budget. So
I speak for Steve and possibly Brian and I, but if you need like walk-ons or someone to get killed, like we're
gonna. You know what? I may need the assistance of the Upper Arlington Police Department in respects to special duty officers, and
we don't care about
that's
that.
Great, but what about us? We want to be in this movie. Yeah, we can do all that, but let's talk about us. This is what's really important.
Let's all work together.
Yeah.
Let's all work together.
You didn't realize that we founded this thing because we were bored and needed a passion project, and really found.
And that's how this started.
Yeah,
I mean, kind of. So we started it January of last year, and it was coming out of the pandemic, and looking for creative ways to reconnect to the community, and our community affairs director, who's also kind of is the communications, she was out on medical leave, and so we had a little bit of leeway because she would never she would never have allowed us to have microphones on our own, and Brian was too new to know any better, and so. Yeah, I mean, we just said, okay, we're coming out of the pandemic. Let's do something interesting that reintroduces the art of conversation. And
beautiful.
We've got so many great people in this community that a year and a half later, we're still doing it, and we're still getting great guests, and You know.
Well,
Usually
we're bringing
great.
that to a crashing halt today.
I was going to say, I was setting you up for the self-deprecating there.
I thought he was going to say, well, of course you have. You've got me now.
No,
Yeah.
no,
Do you-
I go the other way every time.
You are clearly, I think the phrase is polyhyphenate. You have a lot of things after your name. You're a radio
What's
personality.
the phrase?
Polyhyphenate, right? Have you heard that? Like lots of different.
Yeah.
What do you consider yourself? Are you radio personality? Are you a filmmaker? Are you an actor?
I consider myself, if I can say this without sounding snobby, a creative. I mean, I write. I'm a reluctant actor, to be perfectly honest with you. I'd much rather be behind the scenes, writing it, producing it, et cetera, et cetera. But when pushed, I will do that. I had a stand-up career, and I was a stand-up comic before I came into radio.
Should we do the really jerky thing and be like, tell us one of your jokes?
No,
Which
don't.
My brother and I had a podcast and we tried it on a comedian who had a special, and his joke, he couldn't tell one, and it was like fell flat. So I
It's
know
like
not to
it's
ask
the
you.
worst. It's the
Yeah.
worst thing. Yeah,
I learned that lesson.
But yeah, I'm doing stand up, and I still keep my foot in stand up. I'm doing some stand up. I don't know when this drops. When you drop this particular podcast, like
We do it every 2 weeks, so
yeah, I'll be done. I'll be at but as of this conversation, like the next Thursday, I'll be at the station out in Hilliard.
Yep.
They do a comedy night out there, and I still got the funny bone from time to time.
What kind of comic are you? Do you have like are you a
As you
insult comic? or-
No, everything is the best comedy. I think is the truth, and in my case, exaggerated truth. So basically, I talk about my life and the things that I've gone through in life, with sometimes an exaggerated tone to it, to try to find the absurdity and the comedy in real situations that everybody goes through. And as I get older in life, the current theme of what I'm doing on stage right now is what I call cool, calm, and neglected. Which
Neglected,
is
I like it.
cool, and then I'm not cool, I'm not hip by any stretch of the imagination, but I'm a lot cooler now than I was, say, as far as my demeanor. And calm, you can't rattle my cage as easily as you used to be. And neglected, yay. Nobody cares what I have to think or say or what I have my opinion about anything, and I couldn't be happier about it. So it kind of follows those things as I continue to progress in the age. I just turned 64, and a different perspective on life at 64 as opposed to 54 and 44 and 34, and I kind of follow those lines.
Are people pretty cool when you do stand up now, or are they like hecklers and jerks?
Well, you always get hecklers, you always get jerks, but God bless them, and good luck, because that is one skill that if you're going to fire on me, prepared to be fired back upon quickly and
I kind of want to buy a ticket just to try it.
I
Out of my place.
want to find something to try and heckle him with now, but I'm a little intimidated.
You were on the UA podcast. You suck. It's probably not a good heckle. What is the best, if you can remember, the best heckle that you've gotten doing stand up? Because sometimes they do
my
it and they get you,
gosh.
and you're like, okay,
Yeah.
that was good, right?
What if it's an actually a funny heckle as opposed to just an abusive one?
Yeah.
An abusive one, I can, I can't even remember one. It's just the fact. Here's the thing: if you decide to go into stand-up, boys, if you decide to get up on stage, it's not even so much what you say when somebody heckles you, as long as you respond. It's the timing. It's the time. If you respond quickly, if you give that heckle like any life, and you look like you're rattled on stage for even a second, if you, you can I say suck?
Yeah,
I did.
I'm
Yeah, you're
saying,
good.
You suck, and if you go, oh yeah, well and the moment's
his
gone.
blood is in the water.
He's won.
Yeah.
He's won. But if he says something like that, and you come back with something really quick, it almost doesn't even matter what you say, as long as you say it quickly and get it and kind of just clamp it down real fast. Yeah, those are things you learn the hard way over the years and years and years of stand-up, because there were times where somebody would heckle and I would be, yeah, well, okay. No, you are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So do you have like a standard go-to a short version that it's always a variation of that's what she said or something? Okay.
I'm always in the moment. Always in the moment. Yeah, you kind of go with the flow of what's happening, and so I always kind of size up the audience as well too. And I think that comes back from investigative days. I always try to read a room a little bit and get an idea. For example, I'm sitting here right now, and one of the things that I'm thinking about is why you both have the same sweater on.
It's a thing.
the title of the podcast is "Won't You Be Our Neighbor?"
And so we ripped
A
off
la
Rogers.
Mr. Rogers.
Okay, so that's on purpose.
It's on
Yeah, it
purpose.
Oh, thank God.
I kind of wish you got the elephant out of the room earlier, because imagine how much more free this whole interview would have been if he was like, "These guys are just weird, and I don't want to be here."
Wait a minute. And
yeah,
they haven't
I'm like-
even. It hasn't even phased them that they
They're wearing
have the same sweater.
And Darren's
on.
got a hole in it,
I'm
and
like,
something wrong
guys,
with
give
these
each other a
dudes.
call in the morning.
Yeah,
Something.
no. This is part of the whole shtick.
Okay.
It's like putting on our. It's like putting on your uniform. This is how we kind of get into the zone. Is putting
That
on
being
the sweater.
said, they're lovely sweaters, and I'd like to have one. I mean,
Yes.
they look
actually
very
not
comfortable.
They're actually not very lovely. I got them. They're a year and a half old. I went on Amazon when we said we were going to do this and found the cheapest,
Yeah, it
Wow.
shows.
cheapest red cable knit cardigan that I could find on Amazon.
Not 5 stars at this point.
No,
the
it's
hole
not
in my
5 stars.
shoulder
Not
has
the-
been there all
and I've had it and been repaired. It's
So
we just, and I realize that this is a audio medium and not video,
right.
so we don't need to wear them, but we really do feel like
really-
it. gives
no,
us
man,
something.
that's part of it. You got to be able to get into the role. And
So let's talk about that with your radio show.
Right.
Do you like dress up?
No.
Do you don't just wear whatever you feel like?
No.
Do you have a thing
I-
you want to wear?
I went home and changed my shirt because I had something even less than this when I went in this morning. I think I had a sweatshirt on this morning when I went in, and it's you get up at I get up at the alarm goes off at 4, and the last thing I'm thinking about is what I'm going to wear. So it's literally next in line, whatever's in the closet as far as a t-shirt or a sweatshirt, depending on the weather. Yeah, next.
How hard is it we get to do this every other week, and we let you do this. How do you come up with stuff every day?
Every day. Well, I mean, life changes every day, and there's different situations out there every day. And we're a very conversational show. We talk about some of the current things, and we talk about what we call evergreen topics, things that pop up that are just you could talk about it on a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday. And if there's something that's really hot in current events, we might discuss that as well. We also kind of try to pull the curtain back a little bit, and when we get into some of the things, get into our lives as well and our takes on things. There was a topic today that one out of three adults are too tired to be healthy.
Well,
and I would be
higher here,
and I would be one of those three. And then
4 out of 3 in this table are too tired to be healthy.
too tired to be healthy for whatever the reasons might be, and they listed some, and we have fun with that. We have a lot of fun. Yeah.
So, how long have you been doing the radio show?
I did the radio nonstop for 24 years, and nobody more surprised than myself that was the case. I came from stand-up comedy. I was a guest at Sunny 95 on a regular basis as a comedian. I moved out to Los Angeles, and then one day they asked me to be a co-host on the show. And I said no because I was out in L.A., and they said no a second time. Then I finally started to think about it, and I said, you know what? It'd probably be a good thing to have in my resume. I'll go. My daughter was turning 13 at the time and lived here in Upper Arlington. Be a good time to go home and spend. That's kind of an important year in a girl's life, in respects to her development. So I'll come home and then I'll be with my kid and I'll do this. They'll realize they made a horrible mistake, and I'll go back to Los Angeles. In fact, I kept my place in Los Angeles and would go back that first year because I was just the co-host. There was a lovely gentleman by the name of Bob Simpson who was the host of the show at that particular time. And so I would still go out to L.A., once every 6 weeks and still do my sets at the Improv and the Comedy Store and keep all that going. Circumstances changed, and Bob left the show, and Stacy was also on that program. It was Bob Simpson and Co. Company. So we were.
You were just the co.
I was part of the Co.
Okay,
Yeah.
I know how you feel.
Yeah, it's just part
that's
of the Co. And that was in October, and we all kind of collectively sat around together and said, look, they're probably going to get a new morning show come January of next year. Let's just pretend that each show is our last show and just have fun. We had fun. The ratings continued to go up, and then January the following year, they offer us a 4-year contract to Stacy and myself to do the morning show. And I'm like, uh-oh, now what? And then my daughter with her big doe eyes, you're going to do it, aren't you, Pa? Yeah, I'm going to do it. And then that turned into 24 years, and I left in 2018 and came back. It'll be 2 years this July. I left and took a break and they had somebody else in my place with Stacy, Bobby, who did a great job. And when his 3 years were up, they made another change and asked me to come back, and I came back.
So,
And your name's on the show now, so it's legit.
Stacy and Dino, yeah,
Yes.
yeah. It was Dino and Stacy and Dino, and yes.
Do you guys fight over who gets to go first?
Absolutely not.
I mean, I figured that was the answer, but just,
Absolutely
I would
not.
fight for Darren and Steve.
No.
well, if you could book a guest, you might have.
Touche. Okay, Steve and Darren.
One of the things that I think people love about your show is how unapologetically you guys try and be positive about the world.
Sure.
Even when it's tough. How do you do that where you consistently try and stay positive?
I appreciate you saying that.
And is that a fair way to put it?
I don't know if that's entirely true. I do think I don't want to say that negativity comes through, but sometimes honesty comes through.
Fair enough.
And when honesty comes through, it might be how you really feel about something.
Yeah.
And it's hard to always try to find something positive if something really upsets you and disgusts you, or you're angry about something. But that anger can be channeled into something positive, and in the fact that it's honest and sincere. We try to stay away from the stuff that you can hear ad nauseum every day. We try to we don't want to get involved in the political climate and so forth, and extremely controversial things that are in your face 24/7, because it's a different time now. You can get all that either online or on 24-hour news networks and see it all the time. So I believe that people come to our show. We have news with Clark. Clark Donnelly's been doing news forever and a day, and he's great. But I think people come to our show for entertainment. They want to hear some music. They want to laugh. They want to be entertained. And every once in a while, we have some very serious guests on about serious topics, and that's fine, because there are some serious things out there that need to be addressed. We have a great relationship with Nationwide Children's Hospital. We're currently doing work with the On Our Sleeves program and mental health in children. I mean, these are very serious topics, and they can't all be. Not everything can be addressed in a lighthearted, ha-ha manner, because these are serious things that affect our families and our children and so forth and so on. So we get in those moments. But yeah, there's always top of mind is positivity. Yeah.
Well, and even if you're dealing with a difficult subject, so long as you're talking about it in terms of we are not powerless.
Right.
And there is an impact that you can make and that we can make together, you can have real conversation and not pretend that everything's sunshine and roses and unicorns, and still be, leave people coming away feeling like, hey, I got a place and I got something I can do.
I was a comedian who came to radio. The day I grew up and became a radio person and realized that I was in a pretty important place was 9/11.
Okay.
I was supposed to go on vacation. Stacy was already on vacation. 9/11 happened, and I immediately went to the station later that morning, and we stayed on the air that particular morning, past the morning show, into I think a good 10 hours.
Yeah.
No music. I mean, that was one of the darkest days in this nation that we ever experienced, and that's when I realized that what we do, and I don't mean to amplify this or make it sound self-important, but people were calling out and crying and wanting answers, and it wasn't even so much that we had answers, because we didn't. We knew just as much as anybody else, but we came together as a community, and that's when you start to realize that what you do sometimes in radio, I never take it for granted, but whatever bond that we've established with our audience over the years is a real bond.
Yeah.
And I felt it that day on 9/11, and I remember when I went home, I threw up. I was so tense and so with everybody, but we were a calming effect. People wanted something. They wanted a dose of normalcy. And Stacy got like the last rental car from her vacation. She couldn't fly. She couldn't take a train, a bus, or she got the last rental car, and she got back as soon as she could. And we did what we do for the next few days. It was frightening. It was surreal, and yet it was also, in a way, as the days continued to progress, encouraging that we could all come together on some level, and understand and try to figure it out together, for lack of a better description. It was an amazing time. But yeah, I grew up that day in radio, for sure.
Well, and you hit on something that I think you realize it because of that story, but you're coming into our homes, into our cars. You're almost kind of part of our family almost, because like you don't get us back, but we hear you every day. We know about your lives.
Right.
Do you sense that? I mean, that is one powerful example, but even on a day-to-day basis, when people recognize you or run into you and stuff, I mean, voice is different than TV, but
Right. Oh, I'd much rather be on radio than television. Yeah, I don't. We do a podcast as well. We do Whiskey Business. I have for the last almost 6 years now. We do a podcast, and we do have a video component to ours. So we YouTube ours as well. And
so is there a whiskey element to Whiskey Business?
Whiskey Business is what I call a podcast, not so much about whiskey as it is one with whiskey. So the only running theme on our podcast is there's a different bottle of whiskey every week that I share with my guests. And the podcast, the guests range from A to Z.
I think you got S over here. Steve's like, where am I getting whiskey?
So we did a podcast with Greg Lehman over at Watershed.
For Watershed, sure. He's been on plenty of times.
We did a podcast for him. We just released it, 3 weeks ago?
Greg's great.
I actually made him my hobby now is mixology.
Oh, nice.
And I actually made him a cocktail of my own creation on the podcast.
With his bourbon?
With his bourbon and his Nocino.
Okay.
It was very cute because Steve was like a little boy, like
I
proud
totally
to show his parents what he made at art school.
Nice.
I totally fanboyed with it.
Do you remember?
That's exactly how it was.
Can you just recap for me what the parts and parts?
So we called it Mr. Rogers' Rabbit because, again, trying to stay with the Mr. Rogers theme. It is bourbon, Nocino, carrot juice, syrup, bitters. What am I missing? Pinch of salt,
and the big
and blood orange.
And how many attempts did it take before you felt comfortable enough to present said cocktail? Because I know you had to go into, for lack of a better description, again, a test kitchen of some sort.
No,
you didn't want to go in cold.
You can't go in cold and be like, here's my expensive thing.
I've been making that since they did Nocino Fest last fall, because we got a bottle. And I'm like, okay, what do I make with this? And went and found a recipe that was okay, and then I kind of tinkered with it a little bit and switched the citrus around to the blood orange and played with the syrups. So I'd been making it I'd made it probably a dozen times before I made it.
Okay, so
it was not. Hey, let me try this out.
Yeah.
But
you know what? Wait! Before we taste it, let me put some salt in it.
Yeah,
okay, now let's try it.
I forgot the salt.
You forgot the salt?
I forgot the salt when I brought it for Greg, and if you listen to it, he's like, I said, oh shoot, I forgot the salt. He's like, yeah, I can taste that you forgot the salt. So it's a little bit. But anyway, sorry.
He did say it was good, and he wasn't even like trying to like make you feel better. He didn't let him down easy. He said, that's a solid drink. I can taste your flavor profile or whatever.
Well, Watershed is, we live in an amazing city when it comes. If we're going to talk whiskey for just a second,
right.
I mean,
we can talk whiskey for more than just a second.
We live in an amazing city with the amount of quality distillers that are in this town making whiskey. High Bank, Noble Cut, Echo, Watershed. The list goes on. If I forgot somebody, I forget. Magnolia also. They were on the podcast recently. They blend their whiskeys, but still they take time and effort to blend what they think is something really cool. But we actually had a Whiskey Business barrel selection with Watershed.
Our police department did.
Yeah?
Yep.
Did yours sell out?
It did.
We did internally.
Yeah, internally. I think we sold it all.
Oh, it was like a kind of an awareness nice thing for the police department. Okay. They opened it up to me and Steve, so...
Yeah, but he sold. So it sold internally. Yeah.
It didn't sell like to the public. It was like
ours sold to the public. Yeah.
Oh, that would be cool.
Yeah. It was actually on their flight menu at the restaurant. So
Steve
Pretty
and
cool.
Darren whiskey. Maybe we can just brand this, Steve.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I take it either you liked the name Whiskey Business or whiskey is your drink of choice.
Yeah, it is. I was a Scotch guy at first, and then moved over to bourbons and Tennessee whiskeys. Jack Daniels is probably my favorite everyday pour, but there's so many. That's the other thing too. I mean, whiskey has gone, as you probably know, bonkers in the last 10 years, and I don't chase the unicorns anymore, because there are so many great whiskeys that are $40 and under for a good everyday pour. So if anybody wants to know any about that stuff, you can always go to whiskeybusinesspod.com to listen to some of the. There, I'm gonna get my own plug in.
No, you're allowed to do that. That's
Shameless plugs are welcome.
Shameless plugs are welcome. Whiskeybusinesspod.com to check out our podcast and a lot of the archived episodes.
So I'm putting together this whole picture now. I'm going to pitch something to you. We're a detective.
Yeah.
You like your whiskey.
Yeah.
You do acting. You need
Yeah.
to make like an old throwback like detective movie. Like you would be a great like detective where the damsel in distress comes in and needs your help or something, but she's really
Like a film noir. Kind of
film
thing.
noir. You would be perfect for that.
I think I am connected to that. I when I was a comic on the road, and this was shortly after I gave up I don't even think I've really given up investigative
You
work.
still have your PI card.
I actually.
Oh, it's real.
Actually, yes, still licensed, and every once in a while I'll get a call, if you will. Take a look at this, and I'm like, yeah, sure, why not? I will, just for fun. I was up in Cleveland not too long ago, helping out on something which I can't discuss, but yeah, every once in a while I still get the call. But
Do you do like plumbing too? It seems
no,
like you do everything.
no, I
except-
can't.
Or is it just not just no plumbing and electrical
No,
and everything
I
else?
cannot. I have a beautiful mind, but the handiwork with the hands, forget it.
Okay.
You know,
I would hire you to be my PI because imagine being able to flex on your friends. Like, I'm so cool. My PI is a radio personality. Like, what?
it's fun. But I remember when I was on the road, there was this woman we met afterwards, and she was a psychic, and those are entertaining. And but she also her specialty was past lives, and she knew nothing about what I used to do. She just knew me as a comic that was on stage, and she said my past life that she had was I was a detective in the 40s.
Boom.
Boom. And I was horribly murdered.
I mean, not boom on that part.
Yeah.
I'm not going to celebrate that.
While
potentially
I was
boom.
trying to solve a case, she said, you were horribly murdered. And I'm like, wow, that's weird.
Let's write this movie, man. Let's make
Yeah.
it happen.
Crazy, right?
Can you tell us any of the cases that you did work on? I mean, were you like, is it like TV at all, or were you like looking at like cheating spouses?
Yeah.
or-
Did you follow around anybody in Hollywood's famous spouse or anything like that?
I did not. The case I worked out, I will share two of them with you. The one case that I worked in L.A., the client was actually a pornographer, a legitimate pornographer.
As opposed to an illegitimate.
Right.
Okay, I didn't know there was a distinction there.
And this is back when you couldn't get porn so easily, if you will. But the people that I worked for did a lot of intellectual property cases, so he was getting ripped off.
People were stealing his.
They were duplicating his product. He was getting anyone to find out who was ripping him off. So that's what that case was about, and it took me to like every seedy, nasty.
Felt like you were in Boogie Nights.
Yeah.
This has got to be like 1/10 of your stand-up material.
No,
right here.
actually, I've never talked about being an investigator on stage. Isn't that weird?
Oh my gosh, that's such a good story.
Yeah. And there was another case that I worked that was based out of here, Columbus. I'm older than you guys, but there was a insurance fraud case, a big one, called Just Sweats. That was, are you familiar with Just? Yeah, John Hawkins and Melvin Hansen conspired to fake the death of one of the owners of the Just Sweats chains of stores in order to collect the insurance money, and I was brought in on that case as well.
Fake the death?
Yeah, they faked the death of they killed somebody else in California to replace, to be the body of Melvin Hansen. And
What was the long-term plan there? Is Melvin Hansen just never gonna like come
no,
back?
Melvin Hansen actually went away and got plastic surgery, and
This is super in depth.
oh yeah, crazy, yeah, and I got called into that one by accident almost, because I was already working a case in Chicago for them, an intellectual property case where I was posing as a counterfeit watch dealer in Chicago.
You were like the most interesting man in America. Forget the Corona guy.
By the way, I can totally see you
As what?
as a
counterfeit watch dealer?
watch dealer. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you could pull that off.
Yeah, I was
This
set up.
Rolodex
man.
watch?
I was set up. I had fake Gucci, fake Louis Vuitton, fake Rolex watches. I could tell you. I could look at a watch today and tell you if it's a legit or a fake. Even though they're gotten much better now. But I was working that case and coming back to make my reports back here in Columbus, and the whole office was abuzz. And I go, "What's going on?" They were talking about this insurance case, and they were talking about, we need somebody to go talk to John Hawkins's roommate, who was not talking to police or authorities. He was being very close-knit, but he was talking to media. He loved the attention of the media. And I always used to make a joke that I was kind of profiling people before profiling was cool. And I said, has he talked to anybody from Rolling Stone magazine? Now, you got to remember, this is 1988.
Yeah.
So we don't have the internet. We don't have, And they said no. And I said, well, let's see if he does. And I posed as a Rolling Stone reporter to go talk to him. And when
He was like, Rolling Stone is the coolest.
yeah,
of course I'm
right.
gonna talk to you.
And I took the approach that I had just come back into town and saw everything. And I took the approach that his roommate John Hawkins was being railroaded and he was innocent. So I took that route. And I found a bag of trash. This is how they used to do it back in the old days. I found a bag of trash in the closet that was a wealth of trash. Back in those days was the equivalent of going to the internet and getting information. In that bag of trash were correspondences, letters, cards, phone bills, and
a note
leases.
that said, the plan. Fake death. The plan 2, get plastic surgery. Step 3, profit. You cracked the case.
Well, what was interesting about that was I had sorted all this stuff out. Now you got to remember, I'm 20.
How'd you get the garbage out? Did you tuck it under your shirt or something?
Threw it out a window.
Genius. That's probably better than like, well, I'm feeling tummy.
Yeah, to not busted the window, but opened the window and tossed it out. Because I was amazed that, first of all, that his roommate just let me walk around to kind of get a lot of fortunate things went my way. But I remember being in the office and sorting everything out, and I'm a 27-year-old kid, amongst all these veteran, some FBI people were there, some Columbus police were there, and grizzled veterans and so forth. And I'm like, I don't think John Hawkins is going to be a successful fugitive. I think this guy is narcissistic. Because I'm reading all these letters and cards and so forth and so on, and I'm thinking, he's going to go seek comfort and protection and solace from friends and maybe family. And I said, based on these courses, I think he'll be in one of these 6 places within the next 24 to 48 hours. And I remember this Thursday, like, okay, kid.
We have the FBI playbook. We
Kid. All right. Well, we're not going to exert the manpower. I'm sure that. Okay. Sure enough, he eventually was spotted and seen, and I think 3 or 4 of those places. So they could have had him quickly. But instead, he remained elusive for like almost 2 years, and finally was busted in Sardinia, I think, is where they caught up to him. But they could have wrapped it all. And then some of the other people involved in the case were convicted. They caught Melvin Hansen coming back from Mexico with plastic surgery. And,
you realize I've seen enough movies that they were never going to listen to you. It's just like, that's the plot.
Yeah, that's
You
kind of right.
You don't get the whole runtime.
It's almost kind of cliche ridden
Yes.
at that point. But like, okay, all right, fine. What do I know? And I don't know what I knew. I just was good at my job.
Cool. That's a great story.
You are the most interesting person I've met.
No,
You
not
got
hardly.
all these cool things.
Not hardly.
The stand-up PI.
Stand up. Well, which is young man, I feel like, which is the basis of my detective novel called The Reluctant Eye.
Boom! Oh. See, we're on the same wavelength there. You did it first. I'm not going to.
No. I wrote it back in the '90s, and I hate it. I hate it.
I was like sitting on the shelf.
It's sitting on the shelf unpublished because I hate I've rewritten it like 7 times. So now, if I were to publish it, it would have to now be a period piece because it takes place.
But that's cool now.
It takes place in the late '80s. So it would have to be a period piece novel at this point. That's how long ago I wrote this thing.
Anything that doesn't have smartphones is a period piece at this point.
Right. And it doesn't have a smartphone.
I think you need to dust it off. Be inspired by this podcast to finish
maybe,
it.
Maybe.
Feel free to mention the podcast as you're like, spark to redo it.
Because it's about a private investigator who doesn't want to be a private investigator anymore. He wants to be a stand-up comic.
I mean,
and he comes on a podcast and discovers his true
he goes
calling.
into the future,
and
he goes on a podcast. And so
it'll just be flashbacks based on this conversation.
He's just he's trying to be a stand-up comic, but he's not making enough money as a comic, so he reluctantly takes cases in order to supplement his income and so forth.
Now, do you have the mystery involved? Is it a one mystery thing, or is it more about his life?
No, there's a mystery involved. It's
because that's the hardest part, I think, of writing a mystery. Like, you really have to have that thing where the clues are there.
Well,
but you can kind of figure it out, but not too obvious.
Take what life gives you and make it your own. It's about an insurance fraud case.
There you go.
So
hopefully nobody has listened to this podcast because then they know the story.
The question is, who would play Darren and I in the movie?
I think I'd have to let you guys play yourselves.
Oh, good
even better.
answer. Boom.
Yeah. And thank you for thinking it's already a movie because it's not. It's not right now. It's 275 pages sitting up in my room collecting dust for the last 20 years. So
dust it off. Although you'll probably read it and be like,
after you pass, somebody will find it. It'll be it'll be like a Van Gogh.
My friend says that all the time. When you die, the first thing I'm doing is taking all the stuff that you don't think was worth being published, and I'm gonna take it all, and I'm gonna Girl with the Dragon tattoo you.
Yes.
And that's what happened with that particular writer. But Down to the Felt, that's the movie, the script. That's also
that's happening.
Yeah. That's happening.
That's real.
A compulsive gambler who's on a bad roll and wants to leave life, literally a winner. Mm-hmm. Makes a deal with a psychotic yet devout Jewish hitman to kill him.
I'm Jewish. Casting done.
To kill him in 2 weeks, so his mother can collect his insurance money. He can leave life a winner because his mother, he's under the shadow of his deceased father.
Is this a black comedy or just dark?
Dark comedy.
It is comedy though.
There's some dark comedy in it, but it's actual a lot of action, thriller, and it's pretty cool.
I mean, I'd settle for being the guy like when the car chase goes by. It's like, whoa, you knocked over my shopping cart. There's always the.
We're going to shoot it and film it in Columbus because the goal is to. This is something that John Osbeck, Ralph Scott, and myself are firm believers that these types of projects and big ones, because we've all shot independent films. We both have films that are streaming on Amazon as we speak. John did -1. Ralph's done a clown movie called Flopsy, and I hope I'm getting it right, Flopsy and Maxie.
There's so much to unpack there, but I don't want to break your
we shot a lot of Street Where We Live in Upper Arlington. We shot a lot of the stuff that our movie that we did 4 years ago is streaming on Amazon as we speak. But we want to bring bigger. Cleveland gets all the love. Cincinnati gets all the love. Pittsburgh. We want to bring bigger films to Columbus. So that's why even though it's set in Cleveland, Columbus is going to double for Cleveland. And
so Darren thinks he's the Central Ohio version of Bill Simmons. He's got a podcast for everything.
I do.
I think you should have him on your movie podcast.
Yeah, I have a movie review podcast. Are you from Delaware at all?
From Delaware.
Oh, okay. So
from Delaware, Ohio.
Yeah. Are you familiar with it?
Yeah, of course. I love Delaware. Yeah.
The Strand Theater. The director of Strand Theater and I review movies together. So, if you have a movie coming out, we'd love to have you on sometime. Well, this is great cross promotion, Steve. Thank you. It's actually legitimate.
I'd say you can't have a guest on though if you review movies, because what if you hate it? That's very uncomfortable for the next 45 minutes.
Well, we could have you on before we see it and talk about it to get people pumped up about it. But I'm also very good.
Why don't you be on my podcast?
Done.
There you go.
Come on, Mike. You like whiskey?
I think
he
Steve
does
likes
it. I do.
Steve loves it. He'll have to come along too. Yeah.
He can come.
Cross promote everything. Let's do this.
There we go.
It's all about, man. It's all about, let's cross promote all of it.
Yeah, I'll do it. That sounds cool.
Because
Yeah,
we've done movie centric podcasts.
That'd be great.
Hope Madden and George Wolf. I don't know if you know those two names, but they're well known movie reviewers here in town. They come on every year and do an Oscar podcast.
That'd be fun.
And we've done some deep dives into films and favorite. What Johnny DiLoretto is another movie aficionado. He's been on the podcast. We actually
Former UA guy.
Huh?
Former UA guy.
Johnny DiLoretto.
Yeah, lived here for a couple years. His kid.
He's a Steubenville guy. I know that.
He's a Steubenville guy, but
because I'm from Steubenville as well.
I didn't know that. Vincent graduated with my kid.
Yep.
So
we actually did one of my favorite podcasts was we watched It's a Wonderful Life, and
like live comment.
A live comment of It's a Wonderful Life. Yeah, and it was a two-parter because it's a long movie, but so we've done some deep dives.
Yeah, you asked about how to say things about movies that are bad. I very rarely will completely trash a movie, but it's about being honest and yet accentuating who would like it. But one of the worst movies I've ever seen was this movie called Monster Trucks. Have you seen this? The concept is the evil oil company is digging into the ground and it hits an underground reservoir, and the monsters get out and they hide in this kid's truck that doesn't have an engine, and the monster's tentacles make the wheels go, and the evil oil company is trying to capture the monster. And it stars like real people in it. This is like a real movie. I was like, I can't believe I just watched this.
And that's what's
dumber.
Crazy. Like, we're trying to raise $1.5 million to shoot our film, but Monster Truck got made.
Monster Truck probably was a $50 million just burning light money.
Makes me crazy. Well, the Pig Hill is about. There's a legend in Meadville, Pennsylvania, urban legend, that there are pig-human hybrids living in the woods.
Really?
Yes. That's.
So you went on location to film it, like where the actual pig-human hybrids might be.
Yeah. It got kind of creepy. And there's a rash of serial killings, and they're trying to blame it on the pig people, if you will.
When is this movie coming out?
I have no idea.
I don't want to see it.
That's one where I've just I was literally hired to play a role, and my character is the king of Pig Hill. He has an illegal pig farm, so he's.
Is that where the hybrids come from?
You just took the jet in, took the jet out, and that was
jet.
it.
Yeah. If my Toyota is the jet, I hauled butt up there for 3.5 hours. And
what's the movie you said had some Upper Arlington in it that you made?
Street Where We Live is currently streaming.
It's called Street Where You Live.
It's called The Street Where We
I thought you
Live.
were saying you were filming on The Street Where You Live.
No, The Street Where We Live is currently streaming on Amazon and Tubi and some other things as well. We shot that 4 years ago. We shot it the majority of it in Clintonville and Upper Arlington.
It'd be fun for people to check out. See if they recognize stuff.
Yeah. You'll recognize a lot of stuff. And that was a very, very low budget. But again, what a great community of actors and talent behind the camera and in front of the camera that are right here in Columbus, Ohio. So now we're going to be casting some names for Down to the Felt that are going to come in to play the leads. But everything else, a lot of the supporting roles will be cast here as well.
Maybe it's how they go through everybody, and then at the end of the credits, it's also featuring.
Yeah, and introducing.
Yeah.
Steve as Steve.
Steve.
So,
yeah.
Listen, I appreciate you coming in. This has been great.
We flew by, didn't we?
We did.
We just ate
I'm
all the
sorry.
time up, man.
We probably chewed you off, but you're too interesting to cut
This
short.
is the whole purpose of this thing. So we always start with start, bench, cut. We always finish with 2 questions.
Sure.
This is a UA-centric podcast, even though I don't think we've talked about UA very much at all today, which is awesome. What do you love about UA, and what would you change?
What I love about Upper Arlington, my daughter and her mother lived in Upper Arlington for years, went to the UA schools, so I know she got a great education. I work in UA, obviously it's Sunny 95, which back in the day was WVKO AM, and I think when that radio station began as an AM station, I don't even think there was houses over there yet.
Right.
Yeah, at that point. But what I like about UA is kind of the same feeling I have about where I live in Clintonville, is that it continues to grow, change, prosper, all for the better, but still manages to retain its charm and its significance. It grows and changes, but I think it always remembers its roots.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of important in a place that you live and a place that you work and people, et cetera, et cetera. So that's probably the one thing I like about UA. It gets the occasional, some places get an occasional facelift,
Yep.
if you will, but it still maintains its charm, and that's what I like about it. So
What would you change?
what would I change? What would I? What do they call it? The
5 points.
5 points?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love how he was able
Roundabout?
to point
Yeah,
and say, and we all knew 5 points.
Yeah.
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 Roundabout?
Are you pro roundabout?
No,
Oh.
I'm not pro roundabout. Because I
I mean, it's okay. I know we're not supposed to talk politics. You know?
I'm not.
That wasn't a gotcha question.
Roundabouts make me crazy only because it seems like every time I get into a roundabout, there's someone who seems like they've gotten to the roundabout for the first time in their lives ever,
Yeah.
and panics, and it's just like, that's when you have to be the most defensive driver ever in your life. I get impatient.
Yeah, that's fine.
It's a long light.
It is.
It's a long, long light. And if somebody's not paying attention and takes the arrow when they're supposed to take the arrow, oh my God,
It's really bad.
yeah, it makes me crazy. But but that's not a change. That's just a gripe.
Hey,
We'll accept anything.
Anything except for city manager and city attorney. It's what you want to change.
Yeah,
Other than that,
our
we're
that's
fine.
everlasting
that-
fear is that that's going to be someone's
That's
answer
on my
our
list,
show.
actually.
That was 3. Oh.
Yeah. No, not at all. I'm just so glad we got that sweater thing taken care of because
The relief on your face after you figured it out. He's like, what am I doing with these weirdos?
Am I going to get out of here alive?
Yeah, because it had to be on purpose because it's 2:00 in the afternoon when we started recording
it's
this.
summer, by the way.
and
It's
it's
hot
summer.
out.
Yeah, right.
No reason to wear a sweater.
If we had been on it, we would have totally been like, "What are you talking about?" I don't know what you're talking about. And Dina would have been going, "Okay, am I in a movie? And are they about am I going to get out of this alive?" Yeah,
I'm glad we got to the bottom.
I think there is a horror movie in there about two seemingly innocuous government employees
Seriously,
who
wear
sit around,
sweaters.
wear sweaters, and wreak
Fellas,
havoc.
there's any just about anything can be elevated and turned into. There's stories everywhere. That's the thing. There's story. Everybody's got a story, and that's the one thing that I like about our podcast as well is that everybody's got a story. It's up to you guys, and you guys have done a magnificent job today. You just got to draw it out of people. Everybody's, these are things that I haven't talked about in years, and you kind of dug and brought them out. So kind of cool.
Well, thank you for sharing the stories. Thanks for being on the
it was
podcast.
great.
Thanks for being part of the community, whether it's through the movies or through the comedy, or obviously the thing where most people see is through the show and being there and being,
I'm blessed, man.
Being
I am.
part of that. So.
I'm blessed. I'm blessed to be back at the station and refreshed and ready to go and to have the opportunity to do what I do and to share it. That's my biggest joy. I know that sounds kind of corny and hokey, but there's nothing better than making people laugh. Yeah. If you can laugh every day, your day just got that much better.
And hey, you know what? I think in terms of the presentation part, I think it's clear as we compare you to Eric Schmidt that there is some on-air talent difference between the sales talent difference. Because I know Schmidt's going to listen to this.
I can tell you
He
what
was a great guest too. Steve.
He is.
He was a great guest, but I think in terms of on-air talent,
here's what he wrote. I said, I wrote to him, guess you raised the bar here already, getting ready to do my community service at Upper Arlington podcast. Joke. They asked if I'll do as well as you did. And he said, you will crush it. I had trouble putting headphones on.
he did. I completely forgot about that. Here we thought we were having this guy in who's got all this experience in radio, and he's staring at the headphones like,
What is this?
What are these? I've not seen these strange contraptions.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah. So anyway, don't let him anywhere near the studio.
I won't let him anywhere. Well, he pops in from time to time. Yeah, he's great. Like I said, he's a friend first and a boss second.
Yeah.
But he's a great guy. And tell Chiefy I said hello.
Yeah,
So
we talked earlier. Dino and our esteemed Chief Steve Farmer have known each other for years, and Steve's the one who made the connect.
Steve has now booked more guests than I
Yeah,
have.
our police chief has
are you
booked more
picking
gu-
up on this?
It's not lost on me that I have failed miserably.
So, no, I was texting with him, and he said to say hi and sends his greetings. He's out taking care of some family stuff today.
Good.
So,
Good.
yeah,
Please give him my best.
I will. All right.
Thanks
Thank
for
you,
being on.
brother.
Thank you guys so much.